He had everything. A best-selling company, a mansion in Beverly Hills, his name on magazine covers, people flying across the country just to shake his hand. And then, in less than 18 months, it was all gone. Not because of bad luck, not because the market crashed, not because someone betrayed him. It fell apart because of something he couldn't even see. Something that lives inside every single person watching this video right now, including you, including me. And the terrifying part, the more successful you become, the harder it is to see it coming. Today, we're going to talk about the one enemy that has silently destroyed more careers, more relationships, more dreams than failure ever could. Your ego. Now, I need to stop you right there, because you're probably thinking, I'm not an egomaniac. I don't walk around thinking I'm better than everyone. And that's exactly what someone with ego problems would think. Here's what nobody tells you. Ego isn't loud. It's not the guy screaming in the boardroom. It's not the celebrity melting down on TMZ. Ego is quiet. It whispers. It sounds like confidence. It feels like ambition. It looks like drive. And by the time you realize it's been steering your life, you're already off the cliff. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 phases that every single ambitious person goes through: aspiring, succeeding, and failing. And I'm going to show you exactly how ego hijacks all 3. But there's one thing I'm saving for the end of this video: a single question. One sentence that will completely change how you see yourself. Stay until the end. You'll know why. What ego actually is, and why you already have it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever told someone about a goal before you achieved it? Posted about a project before it was finished? Rehearsed what you'd say in an argument before the argument even happened? That's ego. Now, Ryan Holiday, one of the most important thinkers of our generation, defines ego not as the loud, obnoxious narcissism we see in movies. He defines it as this: an unhealthy belief in our own importance. That's it. That's the whole thing. Not thinking you're better than others, not being arrogant, just an unhealthy belief in your own importance. And here's why that's so dangerous: because unhealthy can look completely healthy from the outside. It can look like confidence. It can look like passion. It can look like vision. Think about this. There's a guy, a young, talented writer, who lands a big opportunity. His work gets recognized. He starts getting invited to speak at events. People call him a genius. And one day, instead of sitting down and doing the work that got him there, he starts spending more time talking about his work, writing about his ideas, tweeting about his process, doing interviews about what he plans to do. And before he knows it, he hasn't actually made anything new in 2 years. The ego had convinced him that talking about the work was the same as doing the work. This is what Ryan Holiday calls the replacement. Your ego replaces the real thing, the actual work, the actual growth, with the feeling of doing the real thing. And it feels identical. That's what makes it so devastating. There's a brilliant quote that stopped me cold when I first read it. Impressing people is utterly different from being truly impressive. Read that again. Impressing people is utterly different from being truly impressive. Your ego wants the first one. Your legacy demands the second. And if you think that's uncomfortable, just wait. Because what I'm about to tell you in the next section, this is where it gets personal. How ego kills you before you even begin. Let me paint you a picture. You have a dream. Maybe it's a business, a book, a career, a life that looks completely different from the one you're living right now. And you feel it burning inside you. That fire, that certainty, that feeling of, I was born to do this. Now I'm about to say something that might make you uncomfortable, that feeling. It might be your biggest obstacle. Here's what happens at the aspiration stage. The ego shows up in the disguise of passion. It says you're different, you're special. The rules don't apply to you. You don't need to start at the bottom. You don't need to take the internship. You don't need to listen to people who've been doing this for decades. And we listen to it because it feels good to listen to it. Here's a story that will change how you think about this. In 1983, a guitarist named Kirk Hammett got the phone call every musician dreams about. Metallica, already on their way to becoming legends, called him up. "We want you as our lead guitarist." Now here's where it gets interesting. Most people in that moment would have let the ego take the wheel. "I made it. I'm in Metallica. I don't need to go practice in someone's garage. I am the guitarist of one of the biggest metal bands in the world." But Kirk Hammett didn't do that. The first thing he did after getting that call, he picked up the phone and called a guitar teacher. He looked at the opportunity, the biggest break of his life, and his first thought was, "I need to get better." Not, "I made it." Not, "I deserve this." Not, "Let me tell everyone." He got to work, and Metallica went on to become the best-selling heavy metal band in history. Kirk Hammett is widely considered one of the greatest guitarists alive. Coincidence? Absolutely not. See, what ego does at the aspiration stage is it convinces you that the idea is enough, that the vision counts as progress, that talking about your goals to people burns the same calories as actually chasing them. And here's the most brutal thing I can say to you right now. Nobody cares about your potential. They never have. They never will. Potential is invisible. Work is not. Silence is strength, particularly early on in any journey. The most dangerous question you can ask yourself right now is this: am I building something, or am I performing the act of building something? And that question becomes even more important once you actually start winning. Because, and I cannot stress this enough, success is where ego gets truly deadly. How ego destroys you at your peak. You've probably seen this story before. Someone rises, they work hard, they sacrifice, they grind for years, and then, finally, they make it. And then something happens, something shifts. It's subtle at first. They stop listening as carefully. They surround themselves with people who only agree with them. They start making decisions based on pride instead of strategy. They confuse their title with their talent. Ryan Holiday tells a story about watching three of the most important people in his professional life fall apart, all at the same time. A talent agency, a billion-dollar company, a mentor he had shaped his identity around. All three came unraveling within the same 18 months. And when he looked at what caused it, every single collapse traced back to the same root: ego. Ego that said, "We don't need to change." Ego that said, "I built this, I know best." Ego that said, "The rules were made for people who aren't as good as me." Here's what happens at the success stage. Ryan Holiday calls it the disease of victory. Success is intoxicating. That's just a fact. And the drunk brain makes terrible decisions. When you've won, your brain does something dangerous. It takes your strategy and labels it as genius. It takes your work ethic and frames it as natural talent. It takes your timing, which was partly luck, and calls it vision. And once you've done that, you stop doing the things that made you successful. Because geniuses don't grind. Geniuses just are. Success is intoxicating, yet to sustain it requires sobriety. I want you to think about someone in your life, or in the public eye, who you watched peak and then collapse. Think about them right now. Almost guaranteed, if you look at the real story, there's a moment where they stopped being a student. A moment where they decided they already knew everything. And here's what makes it even harder. People around you will let it happen. Because nobody wants to tell the successful person they're losing their edge. Nobody wants to challenge the CEO. Nobody wants to be the one who says, "I think you might be wrong." And so you build a world around yourself that confirms what your ego already believes. A bubble made of applause and yes men. And it feels incredible, right up until it shatters. But here's what almost no one talks about. The most dangerous version of ego isn't during the rise. It's not even during the peak. It's in the fall. Because that's when ego can turn what should be a setback into total destruction. Why ego turns failure into a death sentence. Let me tell you about the two types of people who fail. And I want you to be honest with yourself about which one you are. Person number one. When things fall apart, they ask, "What happened? What can I learn? What do I need to change?" They treat failure like a tough teacher. They're humiliated. Sure, they're hurting, absolutely. But they get up. They adapt. They come back. Person number two. When things fall apart, they ask, "Why did this happen to me? Who's responsible? How do I protect my reputation?" They spend more energy managing the story of their failure than they do actually learning from it. They double down, they deny, they deflect, and the failure becomes permanent. Ryan Holiday says something that cuts right to the bone. Ego asks, "Why is this happening to me? How do I save this and prove to everyone I'm as great as they think?" Notice what's missing from those questions. Any actual desire to grow, any actual humility, any actual self-awareness, just ego, in panic mode, trying to survive by protecting its image. So I've shown you how ego destroys aspiration. I've shown you how ego poisons success. I've shown you how ego turns failure into a crater. But here's what I haven't told you yet. The most important thing. The thing that determines everything. It's not about getting rid of your ego once. It's about something much harder than that. And it's something we need to talk about right now. The fight that never ends. Here's the thing nobody wants to hear. You don't defeat your ego once and move on. This isn't a battle with a final boss. It's a daily practice. Every single morning you wake up, your ego wakes up with you. And it immediately gets to work. It whispers when you scroll Instagram, "You should be further than them." It whispers when you get criticized, "They just don't understand your genius." It whispers when you succeed, "You can relax now. You've earned it." Ryan Holiday uses a quote from a philosopher that I think about almost every single day. Every day the dust comes back. Every day we must sweep. That is the work. Showing up every day and sweeping. Not because you're weak. Not because you haven't grown. But because dust doesn't care how successful you are. It comes back regardless. And the people who understand that, they're the ones who build things that last. Think about Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketball players in history. Even after winning championships, becoming an MVP and proving himself to the world, Kobe was still the first player in the gym every morning, practicing the same shots, running the same drills, working on the same fundamentals. Not because he had to, but because he understood something most people forget. Greatness isn't built on motivation, it's built on standards. That is the ego-free approach. Not "I will be great," not "I deserve to win." Just one simple question. What is the standard, and am I meeting it today? What is rare is not raw talent, skill, or even confidence, but humility, diligence, and self-awareness. Humility, diligence, self-awareness. Those are the things that are actually rare. Not talent, not passion, not charisma. Those things everyone has some version of. But the willingness to stay humble, the discipline to keep working when nobody is watching, the self-awareness to see yourself clearly, that is genuinely rare. And that is where real greatness lives. Which brings me to that question I promised you at the beginning. The one I said would change how you see yourself. Are you ready? The question that changes everything. Here it is. The question that Ryan Holiday says every ambitious person must sit with. Who do you want to be? Or what do you want to do? Because most people, without realizing it, are building an image of themselves. Not a life, not a body of work, not an actual legacy, just an image. They want the appearance of a writer, not the discipline of writing, the identity of an entrepreneur, not the sacrifices of building a real business, the reputation of a leader, not the weight of actually leading. And that shift from who do I want to be seen as to what do I actually want to build, that is the entire war. That is the battle against ego. That is the work. I want to leave you with something, because this video wasn't meant to make you feel bad about yourself. It wasn't meant to tell you that ambition is wrong, or that wanting success makes you a bad person. It was meant to show you the thing that's been quietly standing between you and what you actually want, and now you can see it. The ego isn't your enemy because it makes you arrogant. The ego is your enemy because it makes you blind. Blind to feedback, blind to opportunity, blind to the people around you, blind to the simple reality that the work, the actual quiet, unglamorous, invisible work, is the point. And here's what I know about you. You're watching this video right now, which means some part of you, some part that is louder than your ego, is hungry for the truth. That part, feed it. Every single day. Feed it with humility. Feed it with work. Feed it with the willingness to be a student again. Because the most successful people in the world aren't the ones who believed in themselves the most. They're the ones who controlled themselves the most. And that kind of control, that's not weakness. That is the most powerful thing a human being can do. Now I have a challenge for you. Not a like and subscribe. Not a share this video. Something harder. For the next 24 hours. Every time you feel the urge to talk about something you haven't done yet, don't. Every time you feel the urge to show people your plans, go work on them instead. Every time your mind says, you deserve more, ask yourself one simple question: have I earned it yet? Because the truth is, greatness is not built in public. It's built quietly, when nobody is watching. So if this message meant something to you today, write the word sweep in the comments. Because every day the dust comes back, and every day we sweep. And if you want more videos about discipline, ego, and the psychology behind success, subscribe, because the